Hello listeners, this is Tally once again on the voiceover. I'd like to give a special welcome to everyone who's tuning in from the Language Docu-Shorts event hosted by the Only English Humanities Lab. This special bonus episode was actually cut from an episode that Rin and I decided not to release, but we still wanted you guys to hear about Rin's story of language loss and cultural loss. If you guys like this episode, we'd really love it if you could tune in to our podcast called Ways That Matter on YouTube and on everywhere you get podcasts. And so without further ado, here's the episode, and we really hope you enjoy it.
Well, hello world. My name is Rin. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a third-year environmental science student. So I guess to start off, I'll talk about where my parents came from and kind of how that influenced me. So I'll start off with my dad, because it's a pretty simple tale, pretty white bread, simple tale. Yeah. Okay, it's not as simple, because he was born here in the States. He was born in Manhattan, New York. So he was very Americanized from the start. My grandmother on my dad's side is Vietnamese, but her family had to move to Thailand. So she actually speaks Thai instead of Vietnamese.
So does she not speak Vietnamese?
I don't think she does, no.
Okay.
But yeah, and then my grandfather on my dad's side, I don't know a lot about him, but I know that he's Chinese. And yeah, Thai people don't like people that aren't Thai. So we actually did have to he had to change his last name to better assimilate in that culture. Like, my dad would have been a Chan instead of a Dang Borsut, the name they chose. So not to say that I would have been related to Jackie Chan, but like we were almost there, folks. Yeah, and so that's a little bit of culture on that side, but my dad was not influenced by either of those backgrounds because he was born in the States, very Americanized. That's just kind of what he grew up with. On my mom's side, she actually immigrated to the US when she was 2. Yeah, she doesn't remember a lot of it, but it was interesting because she moved to Hawaii, which does have a pretty dense Asian and Pacific Islander population, and so she was exposed to Korean, Japanese, and English. But with her Korean, like, she can speak it fluently, but the issue is that the way she was taught it, because with Korean there's honorifics, she was only taught to speak up to people. And so now that she is older, like, she's like almost 50 now, she only knows how to speak up to people. So whenever she encounters a Korean person that is younger than her, it gets really awkward. So she didn't want to teach me Korean because she didn't want to teach it to me wrong. I've had my mom sit down with me, like, Mom, I want to learn Korean. And so she would sit down with me and we would write down the alphabet together. It was like this big ass matrix. Be like, here you go. And then she would teach me a few words, I would write them down, and then that was kind of the extent of what I would learn. Granted, I feel kind of gypped because I feel like at some point I could have taught myself how to speak, different honorifics to different people. And I do feel a little gypped because I feel like even if I had only learned to speak up to people, at least I would have had a start. I would have had a basic understanding of the language. Yeah.
I guess since you don't know any language besides English, like, how does that affect your relationship with, like, your cultural identity as, like, an Asian person and like all the various backgrounds of your family, how did that converge for you, I guess? However you want to take that.
Yeah. I think it's just really overwhelming for me. Like, I was born in Hawaii, and and I've told you, every time I see Lilo and Stitch, I'm like, damn, this is what my life could have been. Because I could have grown up a lot closer to or I could have been more exposed to more Asian, like Korean, Japanese cultures. It would have been a lot more prevalent if I had grown up in Hawaii as opposed to growing up on the mainland in the States. I just feel like even if I wanted to, say, learn Korean, start getting involved in Korean culture and talking to Korean people, you know, like, part of me feels kind of scared to do so because, like, I don't speak Korean, and if I taught myself, it would be bad Korean. I don't trust myself to teach myself well. But even if, say, I did speak some level of Korean, I worry that because I didn't grow up knowing a lot about Korean culture, I don't think I could ever claim that as part of my identity. And just because I'm not 100% Korean, if I were to, say, walk into a like Korean supermarket, the newest H Mart that opened up by Mekong Plaza, go there, it's a great time. If I started talking to like an older Korean person, like they'd be able to look at me and be like, "You're not Korean, and there would be some questions. And it just being able to be accepted in that culture. It's something that I don't know if I could do. It's something that I've always been a little scared of, which kind of sucks. I feel like I should definitely give it a try, and definitely, because I do feel like there's something missing there. I would love to know more about Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese culture. But yeah, I have no idea where to start.